wonderful. I mean, I first heard her speak about, Africa. I'm like, oh, it's really going to be nice to have someone like her speak on on this section today. And I'm really grateful for the fact that she made herself available. And I'm finding a way to pronounce her name, but without wasting too much of her time, I'm going to allow her to introduce herself and then pronounce the name very well, so I don't get to like. Okay, mom, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, it's very interesting as you introduce me. This is something I've encountered with my Nigerian brothers, calling me mom. Like that respect. No, it's something I really appreciate. I have another brother who always calls me mom, and then another one who always calls me mom, especially those still on the continent. Mom, mom, mom. So I appreciate the respect
Thank you so much.
and
Thank you.
the honor for women that you all still have. So I'll say that. The name is Nduku. Nduku. Nduku is the name. You have
Okay.
an Igbo name that's similar.
Yeah,
There's a
that's a Ghanaian name actually.
no, there's an
That's a
Igbo name.
Ghanaian name.
There's an Igbo name that's similar. Look into it. But anyway,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes,
That's
there's
true.
an
Yeah, yeah. I was
Igbo name.
wondering.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, I see now. Because I was trying to search for your name on. I was trying to search your name from Facebook, and it
yeah,
brought. I was like, okay, is she Igbo? But I mean, she's from Kenya, so wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
good. You're welcome.
I'm Igbo, I'm South African, I'm Twi, I'm Kenyan, I'm everything. I'm a global African. Thank you. You just
Wow.
introduced me. I'm a global African. I represent Haitians, the descendants of enslaved Africans in the United States. I'm that as well. I am every one of you because I represent every one of you. And I'm the host on Kumbukeni. Kumbukeni is an African media platform that is out here to counter the false narratives that the Western media has propagated against us for too long, but also that is telling our stories from our perspective. The days are gone where the Mzungu is going to talk about us as if we cannot talk about ourselves. And then also to awaken our brothers and sisters who are still in a slumber. The other day, I had a Kenyan brother tell me to forgive white people because it is their ancestors' fault, not theirs, right? While we are still being oppressed today, we're still being oppressed today. Congo is suffering under Western imperialism. Sudan is suffering under Western imperialism. Nigeria is suffering under Western imperialism. And then for Africans to say, let's forget, that's an insult. So yes, that's who I am. Thank you, brother.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so um, we're going to go straight to the point. So we're just going to allow our speaker to speak briefly on the topic, and then we'll go straight to the question section. You're welcome.
Yes.
The floor is yours, ma'am.
So the silent effect of colonialism on our leaders. I actually don't call them leaders because they don't lead. I call them misleaders because they're misleading us into underdevelopment and into exploitation and into all kinds of awfulness, right? They're misleading us into thinking that going to the West to work in the West is the best thing for Africa when we know very well staying in Africa and building our economy is the best thing. So colonial systems no longer rule directly, right? Because so if you're an African who's looking to see with your plain eyes colonial systems, you're not going to see them. You have to look deeper. You have to look with your mind. You have to ask yourself, why is this happening? Who is behind this? Who is funding this, right? Their values, their structures, their institutions remain embedded in education today, in law today. That is why you see Africans wearing wigs. What business does an African lawyer or judge have wearing a white wig? Right? Like that, it's as simple as that. That's the evidence of colonial systems. So it never ended and it just mutated. It mutated into a thing that white people could continue controlling you without you being aware they're doing it, so that you can calm down, right? You can stop the revolution. You can stop fighting against them, because at that time there was heavy revolution. In Kenya, we had the Kenya Land and Freedom Army. So in order for them to cool us down, essentially, and to have us go back to our subjugation, go back to our submissive selves, they are now acting from Europe, they're acting from the United States, they're acting from the Middle East, because Arabs as well have colonized us, right? And from China. So their departure did not mean the end of colonial control. It simply shifted from direct rule to indirect rule. Today, all the British colonial entities, all the nations that were colonized by the British, when they're getting ready for elections, you'll see those leaders, both parties, The opposition and the main part going to London. Why are they going to London? Since when did you see Trump and Biden come to Africa before elections for us to give them our opinion, right? But we have our leaders always running to London, being given the order of things, and then coming back, and then whoever rules under the for the interest of the colonial systems. So the other thing too in how African leaders inherited that colonial system is the structure of it. First of all, the constitution. I think it's neo-colonialism, Nkrumah's books. I forget whether it's Africa Must Unite or in neo-colonialism, the last stage of imperialism, where he reveals that, I think it's Africa Must Unite. He reveals, one of his books, he reveals that when they were getting ready for independence, so-called independence, the British were there with them when they were putting together the new constitution. And every time they wrote something that was going to actually give them self-determination and autonomy, the British were like, no, 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 no. That has to be changed. No, 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 no. So the constitution was written based on British standards, based on what they wanted. In Kenya, just recently, we were told about 12 years ago now, they wrote a new constitution, right? So we as Kenyans think we have a new constitution, but we don't. Because guess what? When it came to the issue of land, and the committee that was put together of Kenyans to put the constitution together wanted to have certain restrictions on land being given back to Kenyans, the British called again. No, you need to edit that. We're not giving back land. So we have been under Western constitutions since the so-called independence, and therefore have not been independent. That system has just mutated to one that they can better manage while growing their economies from home. And then the political structures were built to serve the oppressor. Like I said, that is who they're serving. That is who the leaders are serving. I think it was yesterday. No, actually, I'm going to be putting together a video because I'm reading and studying. So in my head, I'm thinking I already told you all. But I think we talked about it on a video I did with Mama Kanyisile. Mama Kanyisile is a warrior sister from South Africa, an elder. And we were talking about how even the protests and even how the governments of Africa today respond to protests is Western, right? It's Western. Even the way the brutality, the killing, and the sad thing, the most upsetting thing is that the Western nations, who are the most the biggest hypocrites, and I thank God for being here in their space because I get to see them for who they are. They come out and say, oh, we are against Nigeria oppressing the people. We are against the arrests in Nigeria. We are against the arrests in Kenya. In the meantime, they have their covert operatives in Kenya and in Nigeria paying the people to cause the unrest. So you think that it is your Kenyan leaders, it is your Nigerian leaders, it is your South African leaders, but it is the West manipulating behind closed doors. So the leaders are not serving in the interest of the people, they are serving them. And when they try, and we have seen the evidence, I don't even know why we need to convince our people. Right now, what are they calling Ibrahim Traore? They're calling him what? A dictator. Because he's doing for the people. What did they call Lumumba? What did they call Nkrumah? What did they call Sankara? So when the leader is trying to do for the people, they are villainized by the West. And I forget who it was. I think it was the first president of Mozambique, I believe so, who said, when you see the West befriending me, be very worried. That is when you know that your leader has betrayed you. Any African leader that has good relations with the West and with other foreign entities that are oppressing Africans and exploiting Africans, that is not a leader who is serving Africans. And then we have colonial mentality, right? I'm forgetting his name, who wrote the miseducation of the Negro. I will remember his name in a little bit. So he talks about the education system is not meant to educate us. It's meant to miseducate us. And even worse, it's meant to prepare us for the labor system. So we are laborers, essentially. That's why you as a black person, most of the time, do not have access to certain careers because they're so expensive. So they're priced that way so that you, who has already been subjugated and the system has crushed you where you don't have that money, cannot afford to get into them. And you think it's just because you can't afford it, but that system has made it where you don't have access so that you cannot, you work in a certain capacity in the labor, in the capitalist system, right? So our leaders have gone through the same system. Our misleaders have gone through the same system. They've gone through the same system that tells them, the white man, look at all the achievements the white man has done. The same system of miseducation that doesn't tell you, look at all the great things that black people did. Look at all the resistance that black people withstood against the white invasion, the Arab invasion, the Greek invasion, the Roman invasion. Look at what our ancestors did. Our education system is not based on that. So these leaders have also gone through the miseducation system, and they're operating as Fela said, as zombies, right? They're operating as zombies. They're not themselves. They're black people with white souls. They're black people, even worse, with white supremacist souls. So they're always looking to the West to tell them what to do. And evidence, right? Let's give the evidence. Prioritizing foreign languages in governments over African ones. Do you speak in your government? Is Hausa spoken in the parliament? Is Yoruba? Is Igbo? Yeah. In our government, even recently they banned wearing African clothing, right? The main language is English. The main language of communication is English. And not just in government, even in schools. When I went to school, we were punished for speaking our languages other than English in school. And you had to wear the monitor, right? You had to wear the monitor all day if you spoke Kikamba, if you spoke Swahili, if you spoke Luo, if you spoke Kikuyu, you had to speak English. And then they're always seeking validation from the colonizers. There's an example, there's a speech that Ruto is the current president of Kenya, he gave this week in London. And people are praising him for such a great speech. And then funny enough, as if the ancestors are now ready to prepare us to show us like juxtapose. The same week, he gave a speech in Kenya. What is the difference between the two speeches? Same person. The one he gave in London is a very good boy, very good boy, talking well and being nice and politically correct. The one in Kenya was, dare you do this? You are angering me. How dare you behave like this? To Kenyans, scolding Kenyans essentially. So he's not there to serve the Kenyans. He's not there to talk nicely to the Kenyans. He's there to serve the white man. He's there to talk nicely to the white man. He's capable of talking nicely, but he'll only do it when he's talking to the colonizer. And then we as Africans, we measure progress, especially our leaders. We measure progress based on Western lifestyles, the GDP. What business do Africans have measuring their economies based on GDP? What business do we have measuring our economies based on this GDP? The presence of skyscrapers. You know what skyscrapers do? I'm living now in the United States, in the northeastern region. They block the sun. They block the wind. So there's no natural aeration. You're not living a healthy, natural life. Disease is increased because of the heat is increased. Right? But you think you have progress because you're looking like the West. You want to have what's it called? A World Trade Center in Kenya. That is how we base our progress, based on Western lifestyle. So GDP, you've heard recently, Rwanda is apparently a great economy. Kenya is a great economy. If Kenya was such a great economy, why are Kenyans on the streets protesting? Why is there such huge underemployment, right? If we were to measure progress in Africa based on Ubuntu, based on African culture, we would look at it as our people are fed, good. Our people are educated. They are given the skills through education that can serve us. They're coming back into community to serve. We have contractors, we have electricians, we have thatchers, we have musicians, we have educators. So now our economy is doing well, right? When students leave school, they're getting jobs. Our economy is doing well. Everyone is being served. We don't have slums. People are not dying. We don't even need that many hospitals because people are eating well, right? They're what's the word? It's not about curing disease. It's about preventing, right? It's preventing disease. That's how we are living. That's a healthy economy. That's progress. But then you have us using GDP, where we are told Kenya is one of the biggest economies, the best economies in Africa. No. You have the slum in Kibera growing. You have in the north refugee camps growing, and they're not able to be served there well, right? You have schools closing, schools banning, news headlines of leaders in schools raping the students. How is that progress? How is that progress and getting away with it? So that's the problem. Our leaders are now basing their progress on Western lifestyles. And by the way, for those of you who've never been in the West is not that fancy. It's not that progressive. And I always say I need to start taking videos of these places in the West. There are very many homeless people on the streets in the dead of winter. Very many homeless people in the streets. You go to a place like St. Louis, boarded houses, abandoned boarded houses, no supermarket in that whole city. They have to go to another city to go to a supermarket. They have no access to healthy food. How is that progress? And then if you're basing your lifestyle based on them, you're doomed. We talked about education and the media. I get so angry when I see African media journalists talk, when they get on my name is Nduku Mulumba, but we are now giving the African news. Why are you sounding like that? You're African. Why is that your cadence when you're speaking? You're African. It should be, my name is Nduku Mulumba. We are giving the news today. That is how Africans sound. But we have this system in the media where we have to sound European. And if you don't sound European, you're not a good journalist, right? You see them. I've seen Nigerians. I've seen Ghanaians. I've seen Kenyans. It's everywhere. And I don't know why we think sounding like the European is intelligent, right? You had recently, this week, you had Trump. Who was the president? He was telling, oh, you sound really good, you speak English well. That's what we get. We deserve that because we have set ourselves on their standards. So when he insults us, perfect, we deserve that because we're looking to him for judgment. We're looking to him to okay the way we speak. So therefore, he's in a position where he can say, oh, you speak very well, you black man, because you have allowed him that, right? But if he says that to the leader who was sitting there, I forget which one that was, and the leader says, I am not here to impress you on speaking English. I'm an African. I don't have to speak English well. Simple as that. Now let's go back to the matter that we are discussing, trade. But he sat there and yes, sir, yes, sir. That was the response. So the way we speak, the way we shape our media is based on Western standards. And our leaders, our misleaders are misleading us into thinking that that is progress. And then the school curriculum in Kenya, I think just about every 5 years they are changing the curriculum. It used to be the British system. That's the system that I came up with. I don't know if you all had 844. Not 844. We had, what was the O levels? Did you have O levels in Nigeria? Yes, that's a British system. That is a British system. And in Kenya, thank goodness, and I think in Nigeria also in some schools, you are taught some of your history. You are taught some of your history, but not enough and not in praise. Like we were taught about the Kenya Land and Freedom Army, but it was praising Kenyatta. And Kenyatta was a betrayer of the country. It was praising Kenyatta. It wasn't praising Dedan Kimathi as much. So it's very subtle, and you have to pay attention so that you can see the subtle ways of imperialism and neo-colonialism, as Nkrumah termed it. Nkrumah came up with the term neo-colonialism. Why? Because he understood that colonialism was still there, but it was operating in a new way. So he had to give it a new term so that you understood what he was talking about. Because when he says to you, African, colonialism is still here, you're going to say, but I don't see the white man. The government is not run by the white man. So Nkrumah said, for you to understand, I need to call it what it is. It is a new way of colonialism, right? And that is what all the nations, except right now, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Those are the only nations in the whole of the continent, out of all 54, who are not operating 100% under neo-colonialism. even they are taking one step at a time in shedding neocolonialism. They're not completely there, right? And then Western-backed NGOs and financial institutions as neo-colonial puppeteers. In Kenya, in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Congo, in wherever, Angola, in Somalia, in Ethiopia, why are foreign organizations operating, doing business without paying taxes? Why? And why are our leaders allowing them to operate without paying taxes? Why are our leaders allowing these organizations to operate while they're paying our people minimum wage, right? You had Kenyans recently come out to give, and I keep giving an example of Kenya because I'm Kenyan, right? And that is what I'm familiar with mostly. I am familiar with other places because I interact now with our brothers and sisters, but mostly I keep giving Kenya. And because Kenya right now, this is happening right now, it's evident in the media right now. So you have a case where, I'm losing my train of thought. Yes, Facebook. That's where I was going. Kenyans recently came out. Facebook was hiring Kenyans to do AI work, to train AI. And it was mainly to train AI to detect very harmful content online, right? So rapes, child abuse, terrorist attacks, all that stuff. They are watching this, but they were being paid, I think it was less than $4, if that, right? And the government allows this. The government signs the contract with Facebook. You can do business in our country. You can hire our people. The government doesn't ask, if this is what they are watching, are you going to give them therapy? Are you going to pay for the therapy that they need? Why are you paying this? We're not going to allow you to do business in Kenya if you're not paying at least $20 an hour. And it should match the American, the amount they pay Americans should be the amount they're paying Kenyans. Because guess what? We are importing American goods and we're paying just... I was in Kenya 2 years ago. The price of food was the same, even more than what I pay in America. So why should you be paid less? Why should you be paid less than an American, right? But our leaders are allowing this. They're allowing this to continue. And then the financial institutions, our leaders allow the IMF and the World Bank and all the NGOs to come. We're talking about one specific one, and a good example, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to come and dictate. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation right now has autonomy when it comes to agriculture in Africa. And they're hiring goons, and the government allows them. In Kenya, they went even so far as recently, last year, to give them policy protection through law protection, that they would not be liable legally in Kenya for any activities that they perform in Kenya. Think about how dangerous that is. This is the man that is selling poison in your country, and then your government that is supposed to protect you says, oh, wait, we have a law. This man that's selling poison, he cannot be touched legally by any Kenyan. So you tell me how that leader is serving his people or her people, right? And then the IMF, the Kenyan leaders, all leaders, and I encourage you Africans, and if you don't have the money to buy the book is Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. We have recordings on our platform, on Kumbukeni, on YouTube, and on Twitter and all the other spaces where we are. You can go and listen in on that session we had with John Perkins. But he talks about what the IMF and the World Bank are all about. They use threats, they use sex. So you as a leader, you're a minister, you think this woman is coming, oh, this woman likes you, right? Oh, look at this white woman, she likes me so much. You sleep with her. In the meantime, you don't know she's a CIA operative taking pictures of you, and you have a wife. Right? And therefore they use that to blackmail you. This happens all the time. You've seen it. You've all seen it. You go to these clubs in Africa. These men with their big stomachs are sitting there smiling at this white woman who's talking to them. All kinds of honey this and sweetie this. But then they don't know that that's a CIA operative that's putting them in a position of compromise. And then they end up being blackmailed. If that's not it, a CIA operative comes and says, here's the gun, puts it on the table. You accept our deal or you face death, right? The other system that they use is they tell them, Ruto, you have how many children? 3 children. They're about to go to college, okay? All right, you're going to get this check, and guess what? Your child gets to go to Yale, your child gets to go to Harvard. Ask yourself, why is it that politicians' children are always going to these Ivy League schools? Why? There's no way that politicians' children are smarter than everyone else. No way. And actually, the evidence is in school. A lot of the smart kids were the ones from really tough families that were struggling, poor families. So this is part of the deal. This is part of America saying, we'll give you this, you'll face these consequences if you don't allow the IMF to run business there, if you don't allow the World Bank to run business there. And they're in the business of making money, not lending us money. Because in lending us money, we are constantly giving access to our resources, constantly paying high interest, repaying the money. So they have figured out a way to make money through lending money. That's what they're doing. They're making money. They're not lending money. You end up paying more than you were lent. And then you end up, on top of that, they have conditionalities. You cannot do manufacturing in your country. You have to cut, you cannot fund education. You cannot fund healthcare. You have to cut government jobs. You have to cut these jobs. So how are you going to build your economy? And the leaders sign the check. They sign the contract. They say yes. Because guess what? My daughter is going to get to Yale. My son is going to go to Harvard. He's going to be able to make big money in America and be a very important person, a VIP. So, and then you have some of the people who are in these institutions, people, black people, leaders who work in the IMF, who work in the World Bank. I think it's the former head of Liberia, the woman, one of the former women works in one of these institutions. So you are someone who used to serve your people, and now you're in this institution that does not serve your people. How did you get there? Someone must have said to you, if you behave this way, you'll end up having a career later once you've lost your position as president in the IMF, in the World Bank. So your incentive is not to help your people. It is to build yourself financially and with power, or what you think is power. Because you really don't have power, because the minute that the West is tired of you, they're going to dump you. And then the NGOs, they fund programs that sound helpful but are designed to weaken Africa and to weaken African unity and to weaken self-sufficiency because you're dependent on them. Ask yourself, we have had NGOs in Africa for years, for centuries, right? For decades, we've had NGOs. For decades, we've had NGOs in Africa. Why is Africa not progressive? Why is poverty not eliminated? If NGOs are effective, why has poverty not been eliminated? It has in fact gotten worse. So what exactly are NGOs doing? And this is what Nkrumah, so let's show you a leader who's different. This is what Nkrumah was able to identify. This is what Thomas Sankara was able to identify. They both said, wait a minute, the IMF has been here for so many years, yet we are continuing to suffer. Things are getting worse. No. Step aside, IMF. We need to look at things ourselves now. We need to build ourselves because it appears you're not helping us. We don't need you. Okay? So, many of the leaders, like I said before, especially right after independence, few of them, Nkrumah was one of the few. Thomas Sankara was not immediately after so-called independence. He comes after the first one after independence because it was a coup. I believe it was the second one, right? And then, but Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta, Nigeria, South Africa, all of them were chosen by the entity that was there, the colonial entity that was there, the apartheid entity that was there before them. These people were selected because the white people had observed and they saw this is going to be the good Negro. This is the Negro that says, yes, massa. Oh, thank you, sir. Oh, what do you need, sir? Oh, hurry. You've seen leaders yelling at the waitresses, hurry. He's waiting too long. Eh? But if it's a black person, they don't even see you there. If it's a black leader from another nation, they don't even see you there. But wait, the white man comes, everyone, drop everything. Let's attend to the white man. So, of course, the white man is going to select that person as a leader. Because the next time they come to Kenya, they want to be treated like that. They want to see that, yes, you understand that I am superior to you, and white supremacy, the false notion of white supremacy, is alive. Good Negro. Now you can be a so-called leader of your country. So the people must reclaim power. We see the Kenyans struggling despite the Mount Kilimanjaro that they are climbing, right? They're being killed on the streets. They're being killed in police jails and cells. They're being, the way the police are moving on the streets during the protests is as if our Kenyan brothers and sisters are animals. They don't even see their humanity anymore, right? So this is what it's going to take, but protests alone is not enough. Protest alone is not enough. We must unite. This problem, as you can see my brother nodding his head, is in Nigeria, is in South Africa, is in Congo, is in Somalia, is in Tanzania. It's everywhere. And so we must unite and fight this common enemy. We must unite and fight the IMF. We must unite and fight the World Bank. And then the nations that back them up. For me, the only way forward that Africa is going to have to get sovereignty, that we're going to have self-determination, is to remove the Mzungu from our affairs. Close the bases. Why is an African leader allowing a foreign military base in your nation? Why? When history has shown that that nation has acted against you, that nation has enslaved your people. So why would I bring your military might into my space? So let's think about it as a house, right? I have a house, I have a husband, I am a wife, and we have children. And a few weeks ago, we have this group of people who came to steal from our home, and they beat us up. And actually, they killed one of my children. And they beat my husband up so much, he almost died. They killed a couple of our children, let's say that, right? Burned them alive. Because we're talking about enslavement. Like, you all think I'm being crazy, but that's what we're talking about. This is what used to happen to our people. And they took our dog and hung it on the tree, right? And then they put poison in our well. 2 weeks ago. Okay, now it's today, and they're coming to our door and they knock. And they say, oh, wait a minute. Can we have one of your bedrooms you're not using? We can set up there. And we say yes. And you say yes. Okay, come into my house, set up in my bedroom. This is what our leaders are doing. They're saying yes to the enemy who was killing us 2 weeks ago. Now come set up in my bedroom, in my house, where my children, the few children I have left after you killed the ones 2 weeks ago, set up in my house. Sometimes we need these ridiculous analogies for you to see clearly how ridiculously we are operating on the continent. And then, I don't know, brother, do you want to ask questions so that I'm not talking the whole time?
Yeah. I mean, I was listening to you, I wanted it to actually be done, but really, thank you so much. Really, I'm really, really grateful. And I'm so happy that we have leaders like you that have like a deep insight into, the root cause of a lot of problems we currently facing in Africa as a whole, So we have about 2 questions. Okay, because of time is almost up. I wanted others to watch this after the section. 2 questions which I believe that are very important. And I think a lot of young people today actually, want to ask this question. What real options, do we have as young people and even as leaders when, nearly every system we depend on, education, politics, religion, was built to serve the colonial interest.
So
what options do we really have to actually? So now the question is, what happens when we reject the colonial system? When rejecting the colonial system isolates us from the mainstream progress or from funding? Do we adopt? Do we resist?
So change is not going to be easy. The change that we need is not going to be easy. And I don't know why anyone expects it to be easy, right? If you have cancer, if you have HIV, treatment is not easy. And we literally have a cancer in our continent that needs to be treated. The treatment is not going to be easy. But once you're treated, once you've gone through the surgery, the chemo, the everything else, right? The throwing up because of chemo, the hair loss because of chemo. Once you cross that and you get to the other side, now you can start smiling. Your hair starts growing back. You're living well, right? Same thing with, I always give the analogy of the crossing on the Mara River, the great migration of the animals from Tanzania to Kenya, from Kenya to Tanzania. The Mara River is infested with crocodiles. But every year, those animals will cross to get food. That cross is very tumultuous, right? A lot of zebras are eaten, a lot of wildebeest are eaten, but they will still, even having seen that, because animals learn from behavior, they will still go back and cross the Mara River because they understand there's food on the other side. So we have to be realistic about what liberation means. It's these people don't want to give up power. They don't want to give up power. We've seen what they do to people who want to take power back. We've seen what they did to Gaddafi. We've seen what they did to Lumumba. So why would we think that they would not retaliate? Look at Traore. How is Traore operating? When he says goodbye to France, who does he call? Russia. Because he understands Russia is the enemy of France. But Russia is kind of my enemy, but right now my friend for a purpose. Right now my partner for a purpose. Right now, my partner for a purpose, because they have the equipment, the tools, and the skills that we don't have yet. And through them, and while they're here helping us, we can start building, we can start training, we can start preparing to grow our. So we're going to have strategic partnerships when we say goodbye, white man. When we have to look at China and say, China, we see you're moving in an exploitative way. We will not do business with you anymore if you continue this, because guess what? China needs the resources. They're desperate. They need the resources for their population back at home. Without it, they cannot support those at home. They're desperate. Same thing as the West. The reason they don't want to give it up is because they need it. And without it, their economies are going to shatter. So what we do is say, the West, this is the history we have with you. China did not enslave black people. You enslaved black people. So for you, the relationship is different. Russia did not enslave black people. You enslaved black people. For you, the relationship is different. And because of that, goodbye, go away. We will come back to you when we are ready to negotiate the terms of interaction between us, because we understand we are a global human community and interacting is inevitable. But it's gonna be on our own terms. And then when we do that, first of all, which is why I said it's horrible that we have military bases, we're going to have to close the bases, just like Traore did. He understands that. You cannot have a US base when you're telling United States government to get out of your country, because that military will attack you. You cannot have the British military in Kenya, they don't even get inspected by the police when they're on the road. Their cars are not checked. So you can imagine what they're bringing in. There's no enforcement of any laws when it comes to these military entities, these foreign military entities. So you can imagine what they're doing. The British government, they're and I know this too, the US experts who operate representing the always misusing our women, sexually abusing our women, getting away with it. So we're going to have strategic partnerships when we transition from a neo-colonial, a colonial, an imperialist structure to liberating ourselves. And those strategic partnerships are going to be based on terms that we decide. But the other thing that we're going to have to do is change our education system, right? Our education system has to be dismantled and it has to be grounded. I'm going now to graduate school to study Africology and African American studies. Why? Because I want to be one of those educators. I want to be one of those Africans who's going to structure the new curriculum in Africa. And I want to learn how to do that. And it has to be grounded in our African principles. So because of that, I'm going back to school so that I can help work with others so that we can structure this new curriculum. And it's going to be based on our terms. That's what I'm doing in my own individual capacity for the community. That's what you can all do. Go to school and study our way. Go back to school and study our way. Sit with the elders and study our way. That's another thing I'm doing. I recorded my father and my uncle a couple of years ago talking about what happened in our history, in our family, so that I can understand. Start recording the elders when they speak to you. Tell them you want to preserve this culture. Start talking to the elders so that we come together with all these notes and all these recordings, and we put together a system that is African. We're going to need to do that. The other thing too that we need to understand is we cannot approach violence with non-violence. We cannot do that. If that thief comes to my house 2 weeks ago, I'm buying guns. I'm making sure that that thief does not come, like the attack, right? I gave the analogy. I'm going to make sure I have a machete under my bed. I'm making sure I have a rungu under my bed so that the next time they come, they're getting it. Like, the reason I don't understand why we don't understand this logic. You have been shooting my people down with a Maxim gun in Ghana, in South Africa. Tore down masses of people, right? You have enslaved millions of my people. And I'm supposed to be nice to you. I'm supposed to forgive and forget. Yeah? And I'm supposed to welcome you and serve you with the best wine and the best African food and give you some napkins. What is wrong with us Africans? So that's part of it. We have to understand that when we are approached with violence, we must respond with violence. It's the only language they understand.
Wow. Thank you so much, Okay, so we've almost come to the end of this session, and I want to ask you a last question before we go, and the question is, what's your final advice would you give to young African leaders who want to break free from the silent grip of the colonial system, but feel stuck, in structures that they didn't really create, but they found themselves in?
Go to Kumbukeni and watch all our videos. Let's begin with that. Not just Kumbukeni. Go to African Stream, whatever they have left, and watch all their videos. Go to Kimbunga. It's on YouTube. Watch all their videos. Read all the books we are telling you to read. Start learning what the undertones of this system that keeps us oppressed are. Learn your enemy. Learn about the white man. Learn about the Chinese. Learn about the Arabs. Understand your enemy. And then stop looking towards your enemy for justification, for progress, for standards of progress, right? Embrace your African self. Reclaim your African self. Be proud of your African self. Do not follow the current structures we have. Abandon capitalism. That's a big one. Abandon capitalism. Capitalism is not good for us. Abandon capitalism. Right? The other day we were at an African festival here in New York, and actually we were walking on the street. One of the vendors, who's a friend of ours, he vends books on the streets in New York. He sells books, and another vendor came by. She was selling juices that she makes at home. Guess what? That vendor who sells juices that she makes at home, her child needed a book. So she got a book from the other vendor and she gave him juice. That's called barter trade. He got what he needed, she got what she needed. You don't have to have capitalism to fulfill your needs, to get the resources you need. I'm an educator. But I need someone to help me do the videos on Kumbukeni. I'll educate your child. I'll teach them Kiswahili. I'll teach them this if you help me build let's do it where you understand this many hours is equal to the amount of time I'll be teaching your child. Barter trade. This is what we used to do. I have a goat. You have chickens. I want to cook chicken I have a wedding coming I have goats, you have chickens. I have a wedding coming up for my family. We need to have chicken on the menu, right? One goat is equivalent to how many chickens? This many. Okay, here is a goat. Give me the chickens. What is wrong with you all? You have farming skills. I have veterinarian skills. All right, I need my farm prepared for the season. Your cow needs to be checked? Okay, I'll come and give you veterinarian services. We can operate under barter trade. Because you all want to ask me, if we give up capitalism, what are we going to do? We poor Africans have been operating under barter trade, under favors. That's barter trade. You do me a favor, I do you a favor. I have this need. Okay, the hospital, you're wondering, how are we going to do it in the hospital? The doctor needs to check my son. But that doctor needs their son to come to my school, or their son to buy this car, or their son to do this. So we don't have to have this exploitative system of capitalism. Anyone right now in Africa who's looking to lead, you have to abandon capitalism.
Wow. Thank you so much. Really, thank you so much. So everyone, I want to say a big thank you for to our speaker really, who is, I mean, she probably would be busy, and I know she has another meeting right now. I want to say a very big thank you for making this possible. Thank you so
I'm
much.
actually
And
going
please,
for I'm actually going for an Afrobeat festival, but I'm going to cook for the kid before I leave, so I am
oh,
busy.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but
Okay,
I'm
that's
going
cool.
to an
That's cool. Thank you
Afrobeat
so much, really.
festival to see Kiddy today.
Okay, man, that's really nice. So please, before you go, please follow her. She has a lot of great content.
Yes.
I think you can see her name on the screen. Um, Ninduka,
Nduku,
Ninduka,
Nduku, Nduku,
Nduku,
Nduku. Yes.
Nduku,
Yes.
Nduku.
Bring your
Good. So
embrace your
please,
African tongue, my brother.
Nduku,
Embrace it.
Nduku. So
Yes.
please, I want you guys to really follow her. I mean, I think people like this remind you of your roots. Remind us of our roots, and it's very important, very important. So thank you so much, mom. Thank you very much.
I
Thank you everyone
appreciate you,
also
my
for
brother.
joining. Thank you so much.
I appreciate
Okay,
you.
everyone, bye. Thanks for joining.